They rated their faces for dominance. One of the cadets was Wallace H. Nutting. He went on to fight in both Korea and Vietnam. Today he is retired after 35 years of service. He rose to become a 4-star general, one of the highest ranks in the US Army. Back in 1950, his face was rated as one of the most dominant of his year. So does he think his face had anything to do with his success?
I suppose facial features have a lot to do with it, because when we meet one another for the first time, certainly we evaluate, we make some snap judgments based on how a person looks.
Remarkably, almost all the graduates of 1950 who went on to become 4-star generals also rated very highly in facial dominance. But even though strong faces appeared to have an influence, the scientists acknowledged that performance has the crucial part to play.
Ultimately, I would not think one might be damned in the profession because he didn't have a big jaw or prominent brows or whatever. But it's not the be-all, end-all. But undoubtedly, it can be a help.
But we don't just respond instinctively to faces. We also make snap judgments about people by the way they act. Meet Todd. Now meet Todd again. He's an actor. He's here to help us with an experiment. How does the way we present ourselves influence the behavior of others? Todd and an unsuspecting student have been invited to play a simple game of chance for money. They will bet against each other, and what they win, they'll keep. Before they begin the game, each of them fills up a form, a chance for the opponent to size Todd up. First, Todd acts like a winner. He sits in a way that suggests that he's confident and in control. He quickly finishes his form.
So, are you done? What's that?
Unnerving his opponent.
Should I get her? You done? Should I get her? Should I get her? Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Now they go head-to-head in a card game of total chance. The highest card drawn wins. Will Todd's confident act influence the size of his opponent's bet? Even though it's a game with no skill whatsoever, a pattern soon emerges. None of Todd's opponents fancy their chances against a man who acts like a winner and place the minimum bet possible. They don't want to risk losing. But what will happen if Todd behaves very differently? He's no longer self-confident. Along with his shirt and hairstyle, he's changed the way he behaves. This time, he acts in a submissive manner. He sits in a hunched and unthreatening way. He avoids eye contact. He does everything to make his new opponents feel superior. Back to the card game. Now things are very different. His opponents take a far bigger gamble. Even though Todd can't actually affect the cards, his opponents act like they're betting against a loser. One person even bets the house limit. Amazing though it may seem, it appears that our judgments about who we take on are made more on instinct than on logic. We're all adept at sizing up the opposition, but it's just one weapon in our competitive armoury. Whenever members of the same species compete, then any natural advantage will help to put one of them ahead. If it's a significant advantage, then it's more likely to be passed on to the next generation. It's rather like sword fighting.
At the end of the 16th century, there was a revolution in the art of fencing. The parry was introduced.
The parry was a devastating new move. It was a way of deflecting an opponent's thrust. And if you could do it, you'd come out on top.
Those that hadn't learnt to parry were at a massive disadvantage. They were almost certain to die at the hands of those who had learnt this new technique.
For our distant ancestors, a key advantage was having a competitive instinct. It was essential for survival. As a result, it became embedded in us all. And it's not just adults who benefit from these competitive instincts. They can reveal themselves at a very early age. We fight for our own interests before we've even taken our first breath. This is Kerry Huntrods. She's 36 weeks pregnant, and like any mother-to-be, she imagined that her pregnancy would be a harmonious time.
You have a real picture of blooming mum and, mum and baby in harmony, and, the mum's body growing in this really lovely natural way.
Everything appeared to be going fine until a visit to the midwife.
She'll be very difficult, I'm sure.
I went to this routine antenatal appointment and had a little chat with the midwife, and we sort of talked about what I was thinking about for the birth and things like that. And then she took my blood pressure. It was like just sky high, and I was horrified. I was like, I can't believe it, what do you mean? And she sort of explained, well, you've got, I think, pregnancy high blood pressure.
Kerry didn't know it, but her body was competing with her unborn child. A competition that's fought out in every pregnancy. But in Kerry's case, her baby was in danger of causing her real harm.
You don't expect to have a tiny little baby that's doing something to you that's actually negative and detrimental to, my health. And I suppose I found it really hard to get to grips with the fact that that was possible, because I sort of assume it's the other way around, that, will I influence the baby?
At this late stage of every pregnancy, mother and baby are striving for different things. The theory is the mother's body is ready to give birth. She starts to withdraw food from the baby by lowering her blood pressure. But the baby doesn't want to be born yet. The longer it spends in the womb being fed, the longer it delays the challenges of the outside world. So it forces up the mother's blood pressure to get more food. In rare cases, the baby is too successful for its own good. The conflict gets out of control, and the mother's blood pressure rises dramatically, which can be